Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to our YouTube channel and welcome to this video. So this is part 2 of our PHP Rest API tutorial by using PHP. And before we continue with our tutorial, let's go ahead and try to see a real-world example of REST API. So as you can see, we are in the GitHub developer page and we can see here different options and different information on how to implement a certain API. So basically we can see here the different methods also that we have talked from the previous video, and we can see here the endpoint. So this is basically the root endpoint of the API of github.com. So we can issue GET request to the root endpoint to get the all endpoint categories that the REST API version 3 supports. So we can use curl https://api.github.com, and here we can also see the HTTP redirects. Okay, so we have status code 301, 302. So basically we can implement this type of redirects into our own PHP REST API. And also we talk about HTTP verbs before or methods, right? So we have head, the get, and then post. We have patch. We have also put and delete. Okay. And then we also have different options here like the pagination. Okay, so if you have like thousands of records or thousands of records, and then we don't want our user to be overwhelmed with information or overwhelmed with data, so we might want to paginate the data in our database by using some sort of like a parameter. So page, like page 2, and then every page consists of 100 records. So we can do that with our own PHP REST API. So I'm just showing you here all the possibilities that we can add into our PHP REST API. Okay, we also have this like link header. So if we want that, we can also implement that into our PHP REST API. And then we can also have like limiting to our request every day to our API. So here, as you can see, they have like 5,000 requests per hour limit. So yeah, we can also do that if we want to limit the access to our API. So now let's go back to our code editor and try to complete and start the project and actually write some code to implement our own API in PHP. So this is our base project, PHP REST, and as you can see we have two more directories, the core and includes. The core has the initialize.php file and also includes has config.php. So in config.php, we're going to add the settings and we'll try to connect to our database. So let's try to do that here. So there are a couple of things that we need. We're going to define the user. This is for our database user. And we also have to define the password for that. Okay, and also we need to define first our database name. So maybe we'll just try to name it as PHP REST, and we can try to indent this just to make it more readable. Okay, and then here we're just going to define another variable db and then new. This will be the actual connection for our database. And in here we need to add MySQL, and then the host is, we can say 127.0.0.1, and then the database name will be, of course, equals to our defined database name. So that's db_name. And of course, another one for our character set. So char set equals UTF-8, and we're going to supply also the user or DB user, and of course our DB password. Okay, so that's the connection for our database. And then we're going to set some attributes here. DB attributes. So DB set attribute, and then let's say PDO : and then at attr emulate repairs. We'll just set it to false, and we can copy this. Set attribute, and this will be MySQL attr use buffered query. Okay, so this will be for setting up our database connection, and this will make the database connection later on to be faster than a normal database connection. So attr error mode will be PDO, and then error mode is exception. Okay, and then I think that's it for our database connection. So we have set the database attributes, we have set the connection, and we can use this class, or I mean this particular config.php file to actually connect to our database. And then we're just going to use this in all our files later on when we try to have get all the data coming from our database. And actually in our config.php we can try to define some constant here. So for example, define, that's define, and then so for example app name, we'll just say PHP Rest API tutorial. Okay, and then in our initialize.php we can have to, or we can use this config.php file and try to connect to our database. So in here, in initialize.php, we're just going to define some constant here. So we're just going to check first if ds, this is for our directory separator. So ds, so we're just checking if the ds or directory separator is defined. So if it is defined, so we're just going to do nothing or if it is not defined, let's just go ahead and define it by saying ds and directory separator. Okay, and then semicolon, and then let's try to define also site root for our project. So the same thing, we're going to check if the site root is defined. If it is already defined, then let's just say null, and if it is not, then define it by just using site root or site underscore root here, and then ds, so ds, and then the directory of our file or our project. So in my case, I'm using WAMP, and after that one, another directory separator, and then the www folder that will host our files, and then another directory separator, and the name of our project, which is PHP Rest. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to continue working on with our initialize.php and try to include the config.php file here in our initialize.php file. So see you in the next video, and thanks for watching.